The first play in the Shoemaker's son. In a quiet town of cobbled streets and crooked chimneys, long before any stage lights ever gleamed, there lived a boy named Elias. He wasn't famous, not yet, but he listened to everything. The gossip at the market, the way the blacksmith groaned when he bent, the rhythm in the baker's complaints. He soaked in voices like sunlight. Elias didn't talk much, but when he did, he imitated the priest or the town drunk so perfectly that children howled with laughter. And even adults had to turn away to hide their grins. One chilly spring evening, Elias ducked into the back of a candle-lit tavern. There, by the hearth, a traveler told stories, wild ones of haunted castles, lost love, and kings driven mad by lies. Elias was transfixed. After the applause faded, he followed the man out into the mist and asked, breathless, "Where do your stories come from?" The man chuckled and said, "Good stories aren't told. They're stolen from life and dressed in rhythm." That night, Elias sat by a flickering lamp and wrote his first play. If one could call it that. It was a chaotic tale of a clumsy knight who loved a baker's wife and got turned into a frog by a hiccuping wizard. He gave the script to a boy named Toby, the shoemaker's son, who was known for organizing puppet shows and shadow plays in alleyways. Within 2 days, they had a performance. They charged a halfpenny to watch. Brooms became swords, curtains became royal cloaks, and a very angry goose borrowed without permission played the cursed creature. The show was a disaster. It was glorious. People laughed until their sides hurt. Even the old librarian cackled. But word reached the mayor. He came in mid-performance, red-faced and booming. "What is this indecency? Mocking townsfolk with poultry and pageantry?" He seized the script, tore it in two, and tossed it into a nearby fire. Elias stood frozen. Toby clapped a hand on his shoulder and said with a smirk, "Write another. If they burned it, it must have been good." Years later, Elias would become a renowned playwright. He would tell serious stories, sad stories. But always somewhere a goose, a baker's wife, or a foolish knight would wander in from the wings. When asked where it all began, he'd often smile and say, "My first play was eaten by flames and rescued by a shoemaker's son." No one remembers that alleyway play anymore. But perhaps a piece of it survives hidden in a stage laugh, or whispered by a jester when no one's really listening.
It's time to study new words in context. 1. Cobbled. Definition: made of stones or bricks, often uneven, used for paving streets or paths. Example: the travelers walked slowly along the narrow, cobbled street. 2. Crooked. Definition: bent, twisted, or not straight, can also mean dishonest. Example: the crooked fence leaned toward the road after the storm. 3. Gleamed. Definition: shone brightly with reflected light. Example: her necklace gleamed in the sunlight. 4. Howled. Definition: made a long, loud cry, often in pain, anger, or as an animal's call. Example: the wind howled through the empty alley. 5. Grins. Definition: broad smiles, often showing teeth, sometimes expressing amusement or mischief. Example: the children exchanged grins after playing their prank. 6. Hearth. Definition: the floor or area in front of a fireplace. Example: they sat by the hearth, warming their hands by the fire. 7. Transfixed. Definition: completely still or focused because of amazement, shock, or fear. Example: the audience was transfixed by the magician's final trick. 8. Flickering. Definition: shining or burning with an unsteady light. Example: a flickering candle lit the small room. 9. Chaotic. Definition: completely disordered and confused. Example: the marketplace was chaotic after the announcement. 10. Clumsy. Definition: moving awkwardly or lacking coordination, also prone to accidents. Example: he was so clumsy that he spilled the tea twice. 11. Hiccuping. Definition: making small, sudden sounds caused by a spasm of the diaphragm. Example: the baby kept hiccuping after drinking milk. 12. Cloaks. Definition: loose outer garments, often sleeveless, worn over clothes for warmth or disguise. Example: the travelers pulled their cloaks tighter against the wind. 13. Cackled. Definition: laughed loudly in a harsh or unpleasant way. Example: the old woman cackled at her own joke. 14. Indecency. Definition: behavior or speech that is offensive or morally improper. Example: the court fined him for public indecency. 15. Poultry. Definition: domestic birds raised for eggs or meat, such as chickens or ducks. Example: they kept poultry in a small coop behind the house. 16. Pageantry. Definition: impressive, colorful, and formal display or ceremony. Example: the parade was full of pageantry and music. 17. Smirk. Definition: a slight, often self-satisfied or mocking smile. Example: he wore a smirk after winning the argument. 18. Wander in. Definition: to enter a place slowly or without a clear purpose. Example: guests began to wander in as the music started. 9. From the wings. Definition: from the sides of a theater stage, where actors wait before going on stage. Example: the actor stepped from the wings into the spotlight. 20. Jester. Definition: a performer in medieval courts, who entertained with jokes, tricks, and costumes. Example: the jester's bells jingled as he bowed before the king.
Comprehension questions. 1. Where does the story take place at the beginning? Answer: in a quiet town with cobbled streets and crooked chimneys. 2. What was the boy's name? Answer: Elias. 3. What special ability did Elias have when he spoke? Answer: he could imitate people, such as the priest or the town drunk, so perfectly that others laughed. 4. Where did Elias first hear the traveling storyteller? Answer: in a candlelit tavern by the hearth. 5. How did Elias feel while listening to the traveler's stories? Answer: he was transfixed. 6. What advice did the traveler give about making good stories? Answer: that good stories aren't told. They're stolen from life and dressed in rhythm. 7. What was Elias's first play about? Answer: a clumsy knight who loved a baker's wife and was turned into a frog by a hiccuping wizard. 8. Who helped Elias put on the play? Answer: Toby, the shoemaker's son. 9. What unusual animal appeared in the performance? Answer: a very angry goose. 10. How did the townspeople react to the performance? Answer: they laughed a lot and enjoyed it. 11. Who interrupted the play and why? Answer: the mayor, who called it indecency for mocking townsfolk with poultry and pageantry. 12. What did the mayor do to the play's script? Answer: he tore it in two and threw it into a fire. 13. What did Toby say to encourage Elias after the script was destroyed? Answer: write another. If they burned it, it must have been good. 14. What became of Elias later in life? Answer: he became a renowned playwright. 15. What did Elias often include in his serious stories later on? Answer: a goose, a baker's wife, or a foolish knight wandering in from the wings.